Professor Ujjwala Chakradev is an architect come academician and the Vice Chancellor of SNDT Women's University. She has a distinguished career spanning architecture, urban planning, and heritage conservation. Her recent book, Temples of Bharat, A Journey Through Time, Art, Architecture and Culture, synthesizes her expertise in design, planning, and cultural history, presenting Indian temple architecture as a living lens to understand India's civilizational knowledge systems. She was one of the guest speakers at the second Global Vedic Conference held at Prashanti Nilayam in January 2026, wherein she elucidated how temple architecture of Bharat is a living expression of India's Vedic knowledge.
Om Sai Ram, and my pranam to Sai Ram and to this entire place. I feel blessed to be here. I took so many years to be a part of this place. And probably have done something nice in my previous years. That's why I've been called here. And I'm going to take lots of things with me back home. The first and the foremost thing that I will be taking is the understanding Vedas. We've been talking about Vedas. We know there are Vedas. In fact, at SNDT Women's University, we are going to start Gurukul. So Vedas are the part of that Gurukul as well. But somehow it never occurred to me that I have to chant them. I have to know about it more. Today that inspiration has risen within me. And that's a great thing, I suppose. And that's my first learning. I've been always wanting to come here. Heard about the place. The place is definitely a very divine place. The entire atmosphere, each person over here, the way people are meeting and greeting each other. And the management, I think the entire world of management needs to look into the way this huge gathering is being managed. Everybody having a smile on their faces. Nobody talking about your outer get up and the way you are. Putting your sari pallo on the two shoulders makes me somehow feel that we are focusing towards the subject, towards the inner self. And that's it. I have nothing more to say. The food was fabulous, simple, and the way I love it, timely, the chanting, and praying after every lecture, after every discourse. And everybody following their, systematically following every step that has been assigned to them. Not only the work, but step, I would say. Offering flowers, may it be taking prasad, may it be chanting, may it be offering the garlands, and many, many, many things. I can go on and on. It's a beautiful architecture. The topic which was assigned to me was temple architecture, and I was speaking in the temple architecture. I actually wanted to sum up saying that if each and every activity has to be infused with divinity in it, then the temples have to be activated now. Now temples will have to take this role, like the one which has been taken up over here. There has to be a school, a college, a university which is associated with this place. So similarly, most of the temples need to take up the responsibility of education, take up the responsibility of reaching out to the society where they need to reach out. So there are many things which can happen.
You said that temples have to get into education. Temples should become seats of learning, and seats of learning should become temples.
There were actually, this is the case with which is our past, which is our heritage.
Exactly.
I don't know whether you have heard about, we talk about Takshashila, Nalanda,
Yes.
but we never talk about Sharda Peeth, Sringeri Peeth.
Sringeri Peeth, yeah.
But Sharda Peeth, which was built in 320 BC. Some say it was built by Ashoka on the banks of river Nilam near Kupwada. Now probably it's in Pakistan. It's completely dilapidated right now. But the place at one point of time was the largest university at that time.
Yes.
And had all scriptures, original documents, treatise of Indian knowledge, wisdom, Vedas, people who have interpreted it, people who have traveled to this place. It's amazing. It's treasure which we have. Most of the temples of the past have library with it.
Yes.
And that's the uniqueness. That shows that knowledge and temples were closely associated with each other. Library of Sringeri Peeth is still very, very famous right now. The largest temple of Brihadeshwara. Even it has, in the city itself, there is a Saraswati library. So library and temples are closely associated with it. And I found the library is so rich. Even the history of Maharashtra, Ramdas Swami, those original texts are there in that library.
When we think about the importance of temples, one thing that occurred to me, yes, temples were not just places of worship of the deity. I think temples were civilizational centers.
It's like current days, clubs.
Yeah.
People go to clubs.
Yes.
So people at that time went to temples. But there's a difference in the ambience which I mentioned.
Yes.
And the attitude also.
Correct.
The way you are humble down in front of deity, as though he's watching us.
Correct.
So I don't dare to do something
Correct.
which he would not like.
This subtly spiritualized.
That is what exactly I mean by making entire society a spiritual entity happens in the temple. These were large temples, huge temples. You rightly said so. The corridor outside,
Yes.
which you mentioned about Hampi temple,
Yeah.
that was one of the biggest and the richest bazaars of India.
Exactly, I remember that. That's another thing. Commerce also happened there.
Commerce
Education
also.
happened
Yes.
there. Healing happened there. Entertainment happened there. Worship, of course, happened
Worship, of course.
Happened there.
Because of worship, these things
Everything
are
has
the
happened.
So
Yeah.
every walk of life
Yes.
is connected to divinity,
Divinity,
first.
yes.
And then we go worship, pray, and then go to our own work. This is how the things happened at that time. I was talking about the mystics and the mysteries and the science around. I talked about I mentioned,
Yes.
not talked, but I mentioned about Konark temple. I
Yes.
did mention about this. But at Hampi also, Vitthal temple of Hampi, he's got singing columns.
Yeah.
There are 7 columns together, make
Correct.
one column, and sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. The science is not known about it. Somebody.
No, definitely. I think it's very, very fascinating when you look at the mysteries behind all the temples in India. I think that itself is a very, very
Large.
awe-inspiring subject, because 8 out of 10 temples have stories which are very mysterious.
Of course, there are. I mentioned about Arunachaleshwar because of 5 Panchamahabhutas and then 5 temples, Ekambaleshwar, then Jambukeshwar, and then
Chidambareshwar.
Arunachaleshwar. And then this Kalahasti.
Kalahasti.
And then finally Chidambaram. At Arunachaleshwar, as you go closer to the Garbhagriha, where Shivlinga is there, it's emitting the heat. And you can feel that. These are the places where dhyan is not taught, it happens. One feels like sitting down there and just enter into dhyan. I've heard my guru saying, unless you have insomnia, the sleep happens to you. Like dhyan happens to you, but you're not letting it happen. And you are keeping yourself awake and away from dhyan always, as though it's an insomnia of dhyan. No, you don't want to enter dhyan, but these are the places. You have to just sit, close your eyes, and you are into dhyan. You are connected with the universe immediately. So that kind of a power is there. And that kind of a heat which is being emitted there, of course, there could be science in it. There could be something people can find out and give the answer to that. However, there on the wall, it's said, so I haven't seen it, there is a Tesla coil carved out. And Tesla invented this coil, which is supposed to be the icon for wellness, a kind of a temperature and wellness and the healing and everything. It's been carved out, but he discovered it in late 90s, late 19th century. And it's been there. And that wellness from within is something which one needs to experience. And that's what we were talking. It's a magic. It's something which science cannot interpret or find out the solutions to, saying that this is scientific and this is not scientific and so on.
I think these are things which are the realm of transcending the senses to some extent, because when you are in a temple, you quieten yourself so much, automatically. That the senses lose hold of you, at least in those moments, and that's how you have that transcendental experience. You feel recharged because you are connecting to the reservoir of eternal energy within. We are connecting to the spirit within.
Right.
That's how we feel recharged.
But this understanding has to be maintained by the people who are managing the temples. Because I could see that here. The quietness, the silence, the ambience to make oneself transcend into silence and inner self is possible only when everybody maintains that norm. I've seen the temples rushed with people shouting at each other, chaos, noise. Then that serenity for which these temples were meant for, and the spaces actually are designed for, is lost somewhere. And it hurts. It definitely hurts. It has to be managed somehow.
And in the talk also you were mentioning how the way the temples are constructed, we know that there is so much of science that has gone into it. Maybe some things we have deciphered, some things we will take ages to decipher also, because there's so much that has gone into years to make them stand. As you said, when we go deeper and deeper into the temple, it becomes darker and darker, and becomes cooler and cooler. And most of the stone temples, so automatically you are slipping into that zone where you want to close your eyes and you want to connect, and you're calming yourself, isn't it? We should talk about how our temples were designed so that we connect to our source within.
Even if you see the history of evolution of temples, everywhere Garbhagriha is the most important part, because there the deity stands and sits and lives. Temple is an abode of God. It's an abode. There are norms for its designing, which came much later. Temples came earlier, prior to that. There are types of temples. There are those all things are the technical. As I said, it's a matter. It's a materialistic part of it. With stone, how joint, how to put the stones above, what is dry masonry, how to make a shikhar and the part of a shikhar and the design of a shikhar, and so on and so forth. However, the inner part invariably is something, as I mentioned, the as you enter, it's a Ardha Mandapa, entrance porch. So when it is Ardha Mandapa, it's completely open and there is flooded with light. People come, enter. Lots of people can come out there. Earlier, there used to be hypostyle halls in the Egyptian temples, and those were also 1,000 temples flooded with lights. And there is lots of carving inside because there is light and people can appreciate that. Then there is mandapa. And these mandapas, then there are added mandapas like Nata Mandap, Bhoga Mandap, and so on and so forth. So these mandapas are not come as lighted as Ardha Mandapa, but then there is enough light and there is enough of carving inside. People are being prepared to enter into the divinity, and then from Mandapa you can watch the deity and you now are approaching towards deity. Then there is Antara, that is a vestibule where the circumambulation path, Pradakshina path starts. So it's a small gap between Mandapa and Garbhagruha. When something important has to happen in a function, we have a Geet first. So we prepare everybody to focus towards the keynote speaker. It's something like that. So in Antara, so you are there, then you are entering inside. And the light diminishes. And the carvings also diminish. Inside the Garbha, mother's womb, is something precisely the kind of an atmosphere where a child is taking life. That's the place. It's cool, it's warm, its moisture is there, and you feel cozy, you feel comfortable, and you feel like sitting. There's no light. In the shikhar, nowadays they put the false ceiling inside, but it's actually the shape of a shikhar and a small ventilation there so that the air is also moving, yet we don't feel it. It's that kind of a design. The another thing which I would like to mention over here about the experiencing all the five senses or evoking all the five senses, when you enter a temple, there's invariably a pond or a water, or you wash your feet and then enter.
Many times, many temples, they would ask you to even wear a particular kind of clothes.
Yeah. So you are washing and they are in stone. So your wet feet, when they touch the stone, there's a kind of a sensation, yes, I'm arriving, I'm there. And the focal point also, east-west is the orientation always. Focal point is the deity. You see there, and then you put the bell. So sound, sparsha, sound has happened. Visual is always there. Beautiful carving stories and things which are putting your mind towards the focus. And then the puja itself. So gandha, arti, deep, all that happens. And then the prasad finally. So this is something all your five senses, when they are evoked, you are an alive person. Once you are alive, you are then ready for being inside your own self. Unless and until you are alive with all your five senses, you are not full, you are not complete. And that's what the entire process of puja, and the spaces make you happen that way. And that experience needs to be taken up with actual consciousness. It should not just be entering, going, doing puja, sitting down and coming back. Let's not hurry in this process. I can narrate one example of Mount Abu temples. I had read so much about the temple. I was waiting to visit the temple. It is very much opposite to the temples of Orissa, where carvings are from outside. And in here, from outside, it's a subtle dome, nothing outside. And once you enter, it's a complete intricate carving in marble. But what happened? I was very much excited. I wanted to be the part of it. I stepped out of a car and there were shops and the chaos and lots of noise. Everybody taking my attraction apart or putting me apart, I would say. And I took a turn and I was there. It was as though I would have fallen down because I wasn't given a time of this passage which I was mentioning. We need that passage to prepare ourselves to consume that beauty, consume that aesthetics, be with your own self. It doesn't happen immediately, it happens gradually. So that's a sensitivity we need to have towards these spaces, these temples.
It's a very profound thing that you mentioned, because ultimately it's an inner journey. And when we go to a temple, ironically, you enter the Garbhagriha and then you close your eyes. Because ultimately you are seeing your inner self.
Yes.
You're just awakening your inner self.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, once all the five senses are activated, Sabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, then you are most prepared to get the new life that you mentioned. As you go to the Sanctum Sanctorum, you have been born again. As you said, you're like a newborn baby. You're like in the womb of the divine. In the womb, the baby is not just connected to the mother, the baby is connected to the universe.
Yes.
The baby is connected to all the knowledge sources, all the knowledge streams of the universe. That's why they say, whatever the mother thinks impacts the child, because whatever you pass on to the baby, it absorbs everything. But I think that's what it is. It is that Garbhagriha where we can take a new birth. When you come out of the Sanctum Sanctorum, it's like you can be a new person if you have gone through this whole process.
Yeah. All these temples actually are the manifested wisdom of our past.
Yes.
Which is there in Vedas. We have discovered a little bit about it.
Yes.
And we talk about that. Unfortunately, when I was teaching history of architecture, we talked about material of construction, how it was mined, from where it was carried to the place, what was the joint, how the dowels were used, what is dry masonry, how shikhar is constructed, what is octagonal dome, and how are the beams. I think it's necessary. Of course, it's necessary. It also talks about the construction knowledge which prevailed at that time in that society. It also talks about the values which people at that time had. It also talks about the finances and the kind of wellness, economics of the place, of the time there. However, we never thought about the configuration of the spaces, these experiences. Leave apart the experience beyond this. So this is a mental experience. But as we were talking today, and one of the speaker was talking about, once you are in a dhyan and connected to the universe, there is the spirituality begins at that point. And this spirituality has its many dimensions. We have to experience it. That's all I would say. And we never talk about it. Vivekanand's one small story I remember, if I can share. He said, when the child is born and as he grows, we give lots of toys. And as he grows, the choice of a toy changes. So we keep on giving the bigger toys. If at the age of 20, he keeps playing with the toy which he was enchanted with at the age of 3, then we say that his growth has been stunted. Vivekanand ji said That's what is happening with the humanity these days. We talk about scientific inventions. We talk about we invented light, we invented this, we invented now mobiles. He wasn't there, he isn't there right now, but then he would say so many things have been invented by mankind, and man is very proud about all these things. But I remember what he has written down is the knowledge available to us in this universe is like the number of particles on the seashore, sand particles on the seashore.
Yes.
We pick up one and we
One.
say we have found out and it's scientific and we know and we are happy about it. He said if we want to explore the entire knowledge, you have to go within. We are looking outward and we are looking at this world and trying to say, now I got this, now I got this, now I got this. And that's what he calls is man is still at the age of 3 or 4 and is not growing.
Yeah.
Because there is a path shown by the wisdom shown by our Vedas, our ancestors, and we are not trying to look at it. This is what I mean, that these places of this knowledge, where this chanting, where this puja will have a real sense and the meaning, and people will keep on discovering themselves again and again. That pleasure of connecting with the universe, if they start getting through these temples, that's the potential of these temples. Otherwise, they are the marvels. The places are, like I said, the pearls scattered all across the Bharat Bhumi, from north to south. And they're talking about history. They're talking about our past. They're talking about the miracles of construction. They're talking about the life which prevailed at that time, even beyond Vedic period, which is so called as 1500 BC. We talk about Saraswati banks of river Saraswati, where Vedas were written, seem to have been written down. Who is talking about the time at that? When did it happen? We are not talking about it. We are not discovering it. We are not trying to find out. But there were temples then also. When we talk about Ramayana, there were huge palaces. What was that time? When did it happen? There were temples at that time there.
And also the geographical places where these temples are, that those places are also very, very significant. Those places are spots on earth where there is a potential energy there. And I think that is the reason why our rishis indicated to us that you come to this place, and this place is geographically suited for you to connect with your deeper self. And then they ensured that people gathered there, and they ensured that people performed particular rituals there, and they ensured that it gets systematized in our tradition, isn't it?
Yeah, when I said I talked about Sun Temple of Konark, which was built in the year 13th century. However, the place was a place of Mela. It was Arka Kshetra. Arka is sun. It was Arka Kshetra even prior to this. So, Narasimha Rao, he constructed this temple in 13th century. He took 12 years. There were 1,200 workers who were working there on this construction site, continuously working. They were not allowed to go back home. And the temple was constructed. But why was it constructed? Why did he choose this place in Orissa at Konark? You know that?
No, you should tell us.
This is a month of January. And we have on 14th of January, we had Makar Sankranti, which happens every year.
Every year.
We all know that sun rises in the east and sets in the west every day. But sun does not rise from the same point. It changes its position. So Dakshinayan ends and Uttarayan starts from Makar Sankranti. So the path changes now. This changing path is very, very crucial, important, and is associated with so many events, activities, not by human beings but at celestial level. So these were noted, and then it was identified by our ancestors that the easternmost land of Bharat was the land in Konark in Orissa. And this rising sun on Makara Sankranti was, its rays were falling first on Bharat Bhumi at that place.
Oh, wow.
And that's why it was chosen. And it was aligned in such a way that in all the months, 365 days, the rising sun rays would fall on the deity, passing through all the mandapas of Nata Mandap, Bhoga Mandap, and then so on and so forth. And then enter there. That's a location. We call it Tirtha Kshetra. What you were saying, these were identified, and these were the Tirtha Kshetra where water body, ambience, and the importance and the nature, everything was properly identified and then located.
I think that's the reason why, when you go to a temple, you feel that you are being recreated because of the energy that is there, and I think the ambience of the temple makes it that powerful for us. And if you see India, in all of Indian villages, I think you will find a temple. They will have their own local deity, but again, whole life of the villagers, unless it is changed in the modern times, revolved around the temple. If they produced anything, they will offer it first to the deity there. I think that is the reason why we said India lives in its villages. Indian culture is so much tied to the villages, and our spirituality is very steeped in everything that is Indian. And I think temples were just emblematic of that, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I slightly disagree with you. I agree with you because in a village, this manifestation of divinity and going to the temple is visible, and we can see that. But don't you see the shikharas all across the urban life also?
Absolutely.
We have seen an urban person going to his office, may not have time to enter the temple, but stands on the road and then does this and then goes.
Absolutely.
So that's a connect. I don't know how far, but in a given situation, that's what the variations have happened in this.
Going back to the roots and ensuring that we bring back that old culture into our modern lifestyle. That's why you have here the education institutions, which people call, a lot of people call this a temple of learning. The hospital is a temple of healing, because as soon as you enter the hospital, there's a huge dome. You enter into a space where you feel, I'm not in a hospital. I'm in a completely different place. And as you mentioned, just like in the conference, the day begins with prayer, and the entire education system also is fashioned in such a way that it is a modern Gurukul.
Yeah. It is, and that's how it should be, is my strong feeling. Particular deity or particular thing I'm not talking about, but I feel there should be a connect with the universe. Where are we going in the rest, and why are we aping the rest of the world? I don't know. Few years ago, I was in the Middle East to understand the hospitals. You mentioned about the hospitals, and I studied with my students all boutique hospitals. And they were the blend of 5-star or deluxe hotels and hospitals. you entered the main entrance foyer, and it was like an entering into the lobby of a hotel. That aroma of coffee and things, and then the shops and the sitting and the car counter. And you would not see the typical scene of our hospitals where stretcher is being taken and some wounded person or somebody is there. These scenes were backside, and they were taken care of very appropriately. And it was a great learning for me at that time when I understood that system. However, now I feel, when you mention, in our hospitals, the day starts with the prayer, the chanting, as though we are in the hospital, and the temple connection is so strong. More than a hotel, people of India would love to be a part of a temple at that juncture of a life when you are going through a difficulty.
Yes.
When you are happy and you are enjoying, yes, hotels and 5 stars and things, I agree with you. But when you are in a trouble, you want to be at the feet of the God. And that gives her lots of support system. It's a support system, I would say. He's there with me. So I need not worry much.
I think, and that is the reason why the patient recovery in our hospitals is always quicker, faster than elsewhere. This is what so many doctors have vouched for, and so many patients also feel, because of the ambience, the power of the ambience.
Yeah.
State of
That's
mind.
wonderful. That's wonderful. And that's what I've been always feeling about this education system and new national education policy which has come right now. As an educationist, I feel this kind of a connect, the temples of Cambodia, for that. It has been completely dilapidated to such an extent that roots and the branches of the banyan tree, they have gripped the entire temple. And Indian archaeology, ASI, they are conserving it for past many years. I felt if a school of architecture is a part of that temple and students stay there and observe this conservation process and also observe the other things as they move on, probably they will learn more. And now with the technology, the other basic important subjects can be learned online from the experts. Rest, this ambience matters. So there will be conservation architects basically by observing the conservation processes that are going on day to day, every day. Similarly, in temples, they watch every day the divinity and the things happening, and then go back to their classrooms, which are ultra modern maybe, and they are learning the modern technology and everything. At the same time, they are rooted here to themselves.
I think just like the healing becomes faster,
Learn.
The learning also
Learning
becomes faster.
fast.
Because that's what we have seen in the students who are part of the Sri Sai educational institutions. Everything is done in a way that there is holistic development of body, mind and soul.
Yes. That is inner alignment which I was talking about.
Yes.
There has to be a rhythm, which is a natural thing. Rhythm is there in the ambience, in the environment, in the entire ecosystem. We are losing it. As soon as we are with our own rhythm, learning happens within seconds. I can give my own example. When I have to write something, I never do it in the evening. My mind is cluttered, head is full of so many things which have happened in the morning. I go to sleep, I put everything together and keep it ready. Next day morning, the same thing that article is ready within less than half a time than it would have taken otherwise, and in best of its form also. So probably that's why our ancestors said the studies should be done in the morning, puja should be done in the morning, and we are fresh, mind is fresh, it happens. We haven't talked about in our today's discussion about the sustainability part of the temples. They are the socially sustainable structures of the society. They obviously are environmentally sustainable. They are also the economically viable structures.
Yes.
And right now, the series which I'm writing is about connectedness or sustainability aspect of these temples. When we talk about the social sustainability, in our Konkan, Maharashtra, Konkan area, there are temples which are um, where the law happens, like
Panchayat.
Panchayat sits there, and whatever is done there has to be followed in the villages, of course.
Yes.
So that part is taken care of. At the ugam of every river, we have the temple.
Yes.
So it protects. The ugam is a sensitive part of the river. Even Maid Bhi Ganga river, Ma Ganga, which is so huge, so big, and it's a lifeline of our entire civilization, I would say.
Yeah.
Yet its ugam is protected. Though the original Gomukh is not there, one cannot be there. Now people go for trekking, that's a different story. But Gangotri, there is a temple. Yamnotri, there is a temple. Likewise, every small village has got a temple at its ugam. So it's an environmental protection. There are devrais, like forests of gods. So forest is protected by that god or a goddess of that forest, and her temple is there inside. So people were scared of cutting the trees or taking up the forest products.
Correct.
What is it? It's all the entire ecosystem developed and revolving around the temples.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you also mentioned about the economical impact of temples, and I think you don't have to go to any place other than India to know. You look at Tirupati, you look at Arunachal, you look at even now Ayodhya. The whole cities, Kashi, I think any number, Shirdi, the whole city is only because of the temple. And I think there is temple tourism beats everything now.
Yeah, there is a very, very subtle line where how do we approach that? Where we, because when we cross that commercialism loses the essence for which these temples are meant, for which we were talking about. And that is also seen. There's a beautiful movie in Marathi, Deul, which talks about this, a dilemma of development and temples, and spirituality rather. So spirituality is the main essence, crux of temples. Developments are not opposing this, but losing the spirituality and then having a development, probably that commercialization is something which one needs to be careful about. And this line is everywhere, I would say.
No, I think to all the time be careful about the spirit of anything that we are doing. While we cannot have temples everywhere, but we can convert our places of work, our places of living into temples if we have that kind of a mindset, isn't it? I think that is what is needed.
Actually. You mentioned some time ago about your body also is a temple.
Yeah.
There's a God inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if we look at our own body as a temple, then I think wherever we are, we will create a temple there, and we will connect to the divine.
Actually.
And the purpose of, I guess, coming to these temples is that we make that inner journey.
Yes. Feel the energy.
We feel that
we have the energy. We need to feel it or rejuvenate it again.
I think the temples help in that process to recharge.
Yeah.
When people come to Prashanti Nilayam, that's what they say. They say that it helps them to recharge.
These are the places of recharge, definitely.
Yeah.
And one we need to understand this importance. We need to look at them with these angles. We need to conserve them. We need to respect them. We need to make them the part of our curriculum as well. We need to make people move there with that respect. So the ambience around, all surrounding also, needs to be protected for this, which I mentioned. So heritage conservation, meaningful heritage conservation is also a part of it. It's a Jirnodhar and not the conservation alone. So Jirnodhar is also a part of our agamas. It's written very nicely. It doesn't say that we should continue to be a part of, maintain the temple as it as is said in the conservation. They have kept the Konark temple as it is. So a temple is not a temple without deity for us.
Yes, yes. I think all those shastras which mention about what has to be done in the temple, and it has to be done with that kind of religiosity. That's very important to preserve the energy there. And only when that energy is there, then when people go there, they will experience those instances of
Yeah, that's why
recharge.
Konark is not a temple anymore. It was never, of course, because unfortunately the puja never happened there.
Correct.
But even the Hampi temple, which you
Correct.
mentioned,
Yeah.
we have Bhagna Murtis and we have
Bhagna,
mentioned and maintained them the way they are,
Yeah.
which is not at all tolerated in our Hindu religion. We can't have a Bhagna Murti inside. We immediately put it in the water and have a new one there. So we're not stuck there.
Yeah.
We need not be stuck at a point. So monument conservation and Jirnodhar, these two are the different aspects. So this Jirnodhar and is connected with energy, newness. We need to revitalize it, and we need to understand that spirit also.
So I think just like the temples outside of us need maintenance, and maintenance as per the scriptures, the temple that our body is also needs
Of course, of
that
course,
kind
of
of
course.
maintenance and that kind of sadhana. And I think that is what is most important. You know, whether you wake up early and do your meditation or do your yoga, I think all of that goes towards that maintenance, so that we also become living temples of love. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure to be a part of this, though only for a short period. But definitely it was a calling, and then I would like to come back again.